Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What? Today we've got Samantha on and she works for a pretty well-known estate agency and her role is to deal with early careers. Hi Samantha.
Hiya, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Excited to have you on. We got you on because you basically cover what we talk about all the time, which is early careers. I mean, we're massive on apprenticeships and interns and people getting experience. So my first kind of question to you is, why do you work in this space?
Why? I think I've got a pretty unique job, especially when I work internally for a company and I get to watch people grow and develop. So it's such a fun job to meet lots of different people and just see their journey. So I get a lot of job satisfaction from that.
Very cool. So how did you get into this?
I completely fell into it. So I suppose in terms of background, so I done my A levels at my local college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was dead set that I didn't want to go to university, simply because I didn't know what I wanted to study, and I was like, I don't want to spend all that money for something I'm not sure if I'm going to need. So I was pretty set quite early on that I wanted to do an apprenticeship, which was back in 2014, which makes me feel really old. And it was back then, it wasn't really talked about. There was only sort of traditional sort of plumbing, electricians, things like that. So I was probably one of the early sort of, I would say, professional apprenticeships. Was just looking online, looking at level 3s and 4s, which for anyone that doesn't know apprenticeships, they go in different levels. Stumbled across a level 5 and simply applied. I didn't actually know what I was applying for until I got to the interview.
Wow. So what happened then? So you went to this interview and that was it. Did you enjoy your apprenticeship or how did you find it?
Yeah, I loved it. So my apprenticeship was a level 5 in HR management, and I'm quite unique. Most of my career has been in the built environment, so it was another sort of real estate sort of consultancy, and I loved it because I'd had part-time jobs since I was 15. I like working, and I spent one day a week at my local college, 4 days a week in the office, which was by the Strand. So I used to love going in by Embankment. But I pretty much do exactly what I do now, just sort of at that entry level. So I've definitely grown with it as well.
So that entry level early careers, what does that range from? Does it literally range from 16-year-olds maybe just finished GCSE, apprenticeships and not apprenticeships, all the way to maybe graduates?
Yeah, so I cover everyone from sort of, it's not really an age thing either anymore. So yeah, 16-year-olds fresh out of school. Majority of them are sort of 18 now-ish. Through to graduates, but graduates covers everything. We get a few sort of mature students that are perhaps in their sort of 40s retraining as well. So really touching everyone at sort of different stages of their life and career, really.
That's quite good because a lot of companies, I don't think, really have the infrastructure to be able to support students or apprenticeships from those different levels. What's it sort of like working with and adapting careers for those different people?
I think it's understanding their different needs, and they're so different. So how you manage an apprentice is very different to how you manage an intern, which is very different to how you manage a graduate. So it's about adapting to these different people, and really getting to understand them. So that's what I like, is I like to personally get to know them, to work out what works best for them, and then you can provide them the right support and steer them in the right direction. And occasionally tell them I told you so, when they pick the route that you told them originally anyway.
So I'm very much like you, Samantha. I didn't want to go to uni. I didn't go to uni. I went straight into work. And I personally think now that is a massive advantage. And we're lucky we get to speak to loads of CEOs and founders on the podcast from a huge different range of industries. And most of them have told us, I don't even look at degrees anymore. I just look at what this person's done and if they've got experience at the end of the day. So is that something you found? Do you think people that go through the apprenticeship route really build that early career experience much better than those that maybe go and do a degree and then have to get into work for maybe 5 years later?
I wouldn't say there's a better route. I think it's what works best for that person. So in the industry I work with, the apprenticeship's 4 years. So at the end of 4 years, you walk away with a BSc, you're a chartered professional, and you've got that 4 years worth of experience. But what I would say is, and something I personally felt I missed out on, was that life experience and that living away from home and the skills you get from that as well. Whereas some people want that uni lifestyle, and I think that's really good for things like how to manage your money. Living on student funds isn't always great, so I think that it teach you different routes, and ultimately in our industry, people qualify at the same time, roughly within about 6 months of each other, whether they go through an apprenticeship route or a degree program. I suppose the biggest thing is the experience. Well, having 2 over 4 is always great, but it's how you learn and how best to get the most out of your potential.
And what differs from an apprenticeship to, say, an internship? How are they structured differently?
Yeah, so the company I work for currently, our internships are mainly aimed at those with 1 year of degree study, but it varies across the industry. So some look at internships for A-level students. So these are short-term placements, anywhere between 2 and I would say 12 weeks. And in this, you're just getting a taste of what the industry is like, or what it's like to work for that particular company, and a bit of a try before you buy, really. See if you like it, because there will be things you walk away from and you go, I did like that, or I didn't like that, and it helps you steer your rate down, and making those connections and starting to build your network is incredible.
So what does an average day look like for someone that's working in early careers?
I hate the cliche, but no 2 days are ever. So I suppose even in my last week, I've been travelling up and down the country. So I've been to Birmingham, virtually to Edinburgh. So I mix between recruitment and development. So that recruitment covers everything from advertising jobs, connecting with universities, screening applications, conducting interviews, and then the development side. So I've had appraisals today, checking in on performance, organising training sessions or delivering training sessions. So it's there's so much scope in an early careers role.
Sounds massively varied. Is that something that you enjoy as part of the job?
Yes, don't get me wrong, it can get a little chaotic, but it is so much fun. The fact that you're having so many different conversations with different people, and you do get to see people and they ask you questions, and you become sort of expert in your field, and people come to you for advice as well, which I quite like.
So when you're looking at apprenticeships versus internships, right, and somebody's applying, what makes them stand out for you at both apprenticeship level and internship?
I think it's how you connect in with that industry, and connecting with an industry doesn't always have to be work experience, because I recognise not everyone can get work experience. So some people might have part-time jobs, and you know what, giving up work for 2 weeks just isn't possible because you need to fund things at home. So ways that you can connect, I think, is doing your research on that industry. What are the big deals going on in that industry? Are there any new players in that industry? Are there any current podcasts? Are there news articles that you could read? Perhaps you could write your own. So it's not just what have I done, it's how you can also do these things outside of, say, traditional work experience as well.
What would be some of the biggest positives you've taken from this job so far?
What's the biggest positive? I think it's just I get to watch a lot of people apply to us, which is lovely. But also I get people knocked back, and actually seeing them come back stronger than before, and seeing that resilience in other people, as well as myself, because I have to sometimes deliver the bad news. So seeing people come back and sometimes champion the underdog as well is great.
And then for somebody that actually wants to work in early careers, is there a need now to have a degree, or can you go down the route that you went down? How's it kind of changed?
I think it's a mix. So you can go down the HR degree route, which is available at quite a lot of universities, and then through that people tend to find obviously graduate schemes, or just straight employment, and then you can do your chartership with the CIPD, which is the Chartered Institute for Professional Development, which is all around sort of our professional body, or you can go through apprenticeships and sometimes just direct entry and work your way up and just getting a flavour for what it's like.
What would be some key personality traits that you think you have that really help working in this role?
Oh, well, the thing is, I would say people skills, but naturally I'm an introvert, so this isn't my natural talking style. I would say I'm very much the person in the office that, you know what, give me the laptop and I'll work away. But I think you do have to have that emotional intelligence, because it is quite emotive watching people go through these roles and the development of them as well. So I think there's an element of that. I think it's being able to adapt quickly. Everything from perhaps something that's not gone right on an assessment centre and having to put in a backup plan, and just being able to get a gauge for what people need. And I think it's that sort of just intuition as well.
And then how do you kind of progress when working in early careers? So what's the ladder kind of look like for somebody thinking, do you know what, I'd quite like to go in that?
So traditionally you would start off in perhaps a coordinator or an administrator role, then you go into an officer. From there you can go into senior officers or team leaders, depending on the structure of the team, then to typically a careers manager, and that can be in the UK, but there's also global opportunities as well. So depending on the sort of company you work for, you could be working on graduate programs in sort of Singapore, Australia, America, which is quite cool as well. So it's not just in the UK, it has global reach too.
You mentioned earlier you were traveling up and down the country. Were they sort of like careers events at universities and things like that? What's it like attending things like that around the country?
Oh, they're my favourite events. So this week it was actually to do an assessment centre, but I do have plans to go back for careers fairs. It's a lot of fun. I meet a lot of students. You get about, I would say, typically around 100 to 150 at any given point in the day. So you're speaking to lots of people, you're asking their questions. And actually it's fun when I meet people that don't necessarily know about my company or about my industry, and really telling them and saying, oh, you could actually do this if you think about this, or if you try this internship, or actually we do some other routes that you might want to consider. So they're great fun. Don't get me wrong, carrying around a massive banner with the company logo isn't always the most glamorous, but you know, I love it.
When you attend these sort of events, I can imagine they're open to all different industries. Do you get, is there a more popular maybe degree or people's courses that, or subjects they take that tend to favour what your company provides?
Traditionally, yes. So if you've asked me this about 2-3 years ago, it would have been geography. That would have been the best one, because there's an element of that links back to sort of the human geography side of it. But actually, the industry is massively changing in real estate and sort of estate agency, to the point that I've got graduates that were once A&E doctors or teachers, or physiotherapists or chemists, because real estate touches everything. So we live, we play, we sleep in it, we work in it. So actually all degree backgrounds are really useful, because you'll have such a different perspective of how to view a healthcare centre or how to view a hotel. So yeah, probably 2-3 years ago it would have been geography, but now it's a wide open ball game.
Does your company maybe look for more specific degrees? So for instance, you obviously said geography a couple of years back. Did you more target those sort of students, and do you still target specific courses now?
We actually don't target specific courses, so we actually just open it up. So we call it a non-cognate, and that just simply means you don't have a real estate degree. So we don't target particular universities or particular courses, because you know what, real estate and the estate agency will affect all different sides of a person. So it doesn't actually matter what degree they come from. So we're not particularly targeting, but we just want people that are keen and interested, that just have a connection to the industry.
I'm really interested in, you mentioned kind of like mature students and people maybe changing careers. Has that increased over the last few years, do you think?
Yeah, I would say actually I've noticed a couple more applications, perhaps people that perhaps more on the ground side of it, so perhaps more your traditional bricklayers that have gone, actually working on a building site isn't for me anymore, but I really love the industry, let me go and do a degree in project management or the building surveying side. So I think there's a change of, actually I whilst I love the industry, the skills I might need or how I see my career going in the future is really different, and then we get complete career changes. So I think my favourite was the A&E doctor who done 7 years of his doctorate to then discover he doesn't like blood and was like, I want to go back to education.
That's quite a waste of 7 years, maybe.
I know.
You mentioned careers fairs. Now, do you think that's one of the best ways, if not the best way, for students to find apprenticeships and internships? Or if not, where else can they find them?
Mix. So there's a range of different resources available. So obviously you've got the University Target Careers Fair, but for apprentices, you've got national conferences that happen. So I know there's one in Excel in London, I think there's one in Birmingham, I think there's one in Manchester now as well. So they're a great way. I would say quite often a lot of firms will go in and do guest lectures. So whilst it might be a guest lecture in a certain study, there might be a law element. So if you're a law student, actually you might want to go and attend that one. So I think guest lectures, I think referrals are always really good. So whilst you might not have had experience in it, your friend might have, and actually they might connect with you. Competitions, lots of people are going down that. So I think it's a real range, and I think careers fairs are great, and it's great when they're on campus. I will say there was a bit of a lull probably this time last year when I think everyone was zoomed out, but I think that's coming back now, and I think people like being able to reach out to loads of different firms, and it makes it a bit more personal as well.
If you could give a piece of advice to maybe some students looking to go into the apprenticeship, or maybe graduates graduating this year, that would really help them stand out, what would that be?
I think it would be do your research, and that's not just on the company, that's on that industry. So think about what have you done and how does that connect. So have you done some articles that might have linked? Did you do the I think at college people can do the extended project, some people like to do that on various different topics. So I think it's all about linking it back. I think cover letters are great, and I think it's just my biggest rule is if your CV is about you and your cover letter is about me. So when I say me, it's that company. So if I can read your CV and take out the word of my company and insert it with another one, it's probably not quite doing what you want it to do. But if I can look at that and I can see you've gone over and above what's just on the website, you've thought about what this means to you and perhaps some of the assets that we work on, or people that you've met that you think actually that this is why I've gone down this route. I think research is so key in any application, whether that's on your CV, your cover letter, or any application questions there may be as well. And
would you still go into this industry knowing everything you know now?
Oh, 100%, definitely. I think, to be fair, I wouldn't change anything. I think I'd still go down my apprenticeship route. I'd still try lots of different things. I haven't always just worked in early careers. I've done agency recruitment. I even had a career change myself and went into youth therapy. But actually, I think each of those things taught me something different. So yeah, I love early careers.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Samantha. It's been great chatting, and you've given some really great advice.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you. If someone maybe wanted to reach out and have a question, would your LinkedIn be the best place?
Yeah, LinkedIn's my best place to reach me.
Awesome. Thank you.